Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Global Women Breakfast 2026. As a president of EuChemS and chair of the task group on inclusion and diversity, I'm very pleased today to open this event that is framed into the much larger event at the mondial level, I would say, that is the Global Women Breakfast organized by IUPAC. Let me say something about what EuChemS is and why EuChemS can join this great event that is the Global Women Breakfast that is open in several parts of the world, starting from the first day of the hours of the day until tonight. So EuChemS, the organization that I'm very proud to lead, is an organization, is a social society that brings together several chemical societies from all the world. Actually, we have our in EuChemS are more than 140,000 active members. They belong to 48 member society or organization coming from 35 European countries. So really is a network of organizations which cover all the parts of Europe. And what this organization is aimed to do? I would say, please, the next slides. I would say that the main role of EuChemS is the one that is aimed to speak with a unique voice in spite of all these members, but not only with researchers, I would say, but also with members of the civil society, with politicians, and of course with active citizens to reinforce the idea that chemistry can really change the world. And EuChemS does has this role, and through several activities that of course start from the organization of congresses, but they take care of the career of young chemistry. They speak, we speak with politics, organize meeting at the European Parliament, always had magazine on newsletter to let the participant, the active member of EuChemS, to really be into what happened in Europe regarding chemistry, because we want to interfere and say what is something that reflects the entire Europe and has a long-term effect, of course. And so we also have a lot of award that is able to, let's see, give prize, quite important prize, not only for the excellence in science, but also for the career of young students, and also for the place in the world where chemistry has first built the fabrics or university. So in this frame, with this in mind, I think that it's very easy to understand why EuChemS every year is trying to organize the Global Women Breakfast. But I think that to explain better the interconnection between our organization and this event organized by EuPac, there is no one better than the past president of EuPac that can explain us why it's important, the role of EuChemS in this event. Please. Can you send the video of the past president of EuPac?
Good morning, everyone. It is a real pleasure to welcome all of you to the EuChemS Global Women's Breakfast 2026 and to thank EuChemS for hosting this important event as part of the IUPAC global activity, which is taking place now around the world and that this year carries the theme Many Voices, One Science. I would like to begin by expressing my gratitude to Ninetta, Angela, Wolfram, and the entire EuChemS team for the invitation to say a few words at the beginning of this event and for the excellent organization of this online breakfast. The Global Women Breakfast is not only a celebration of women in chemistry, it is a collective call to ensure that science is open, welcoming, and accessible to all. Closing the gender gap is essential to building chemical community that reflects the diversity of the societies it serves and that fully embodies the IUPAC guiding principles of responsible chemistry. Because when everyone is invited to participate, to contribute, and to lead, chemistry becomes stronger, more creative, and more responsive to global challenges. Inclusion, equity, and shared responsibility are not peripheral goals, they are central to practicing chemistry responsibly. Today's theme, Shaping Responsible Chemistry, the strategic role of women in Europe, could not be more timely. In this sense, the EuChemS Global Women Breakfast captures perfectly the spirit of the IUPAC Global Women Breakfast 2026, Many Voices, One Science. It also aligns very naturally with the newly launched IUPAC Guiding Principles of Responsible Chemistry, which invite us to reflect not only on what chemistry can do, but on what we chemists should do. In particular, today's focus on communication and collaboration and convergence across disciplines speaks directly to two core dimensions of the IUPAC guided principles of responsible chemistry, highlighting the importance of openness, inclusivity, and cross-disciplinarity engagement in addressing complex scientific and societal challenges. Let me be clear, responsible chemistry cannot be achieved in isolation. It demands sustained dialogue across disciplines, sectors, and cultures. For this reason, I encourage all of you to use this space for a conversation that is constructive, but also bold and brave. Do not shy away from difficult questions. Responsible chemistry demands honesty, reflection, and at times, discomfort. Progress depends on your willingness to engage deeply, even when conversations are challenging. I also warmly invite you to share the outcomes of today's discussions with the IUPAC team through the Global Women Breakfast online platform and across social media channels. We want to hear from you. Your ideas, projects, and concrete actions are essential to ensure that this initiative reflects the realities, priorities, and ambitions of our communities. Looking ahead, I would like also to highlight that these conversations will continue and deepen at the 10th EuChemS Chemistry Congress, which will take place in Antwerp, Belgium, this July. The Congress will provide an important platform to advance these issues, to bring diverse voices together, and to translate reflection into concrete action. I warmly invite you to join us in Antwerp to help shape the agenda, to contribute to perspective and experience, and to work collectively to close the gender gap in chemistry and beyond. Finally, I would like to thank all the volunteers, speakers, and participants who are making the hundreds of Global Women Breakfast events taking place today around the world possible. Your commitment, time, and energy are what transform a global initiative into meaningful and lasting action. Thank you for being part of this conversation and for helping shape the future of responsible chemistry in Europe and beyond. I wish you a stimulating and inspiring global breakfast. Enjoy your breakfast. Thank you very much.
Okay, I just would like to add that this is not the first time that we deal with the Global Women Breakfast, because in the past edition, this is the fifth, I think, several themes have been addressed on the leadership, inclusion, empowerment, and all these editions are united by a shared understanding that responsibility in science goes beyond technical excellence and includes education, ethics, collaboration, and long-term impact. And in fact, if you see the title of this event in the past, we see that we had one regarding the current biases relatively to difficulties that women have in approaching science. We had the last one, the 2024 one, reaching for the quark, that is related to how women dare the high level of technology that is requested now to perform a good science, competitive science. But we had also an edition in which we talked about women at the forefront of conflict, because the problem related to conflict that are, of course, general for everybody are particularly strong for women. And we have seen this during the epidemic that we went through a couple of years ago. So these were the past events. The event of this year, you have seen, is Many Voice, One Science, is the general one that was decided by IUPAC. And we could choose several themes related to responsibility. And we have chosen the two parts of this list that are related to communication and interdisciplinarity. Okay, this theme is really important at the European and global level, because if we understand in which situation the world is now and what is the difference between Europe and the other part of the world, we can say that Europe has placed, or at least is aimed to place, responsibility, sustainability, and interdisciplinarity at the center of the scientific strategies, from both the research part and also to energy and to environment. And see, Europe can be seen as a laboratory of good practice where inclusive governance, education, responsible research, development that are responsible itself, then that means that need to be tested and shared with the community, but also with the society. And this year theme, Many Voices, One Science, capture the central idea that scientific excellence and responsibility have to be together with the diversity and perspective. And chemistry has to be deeply interconnected with society, because it influences education, technological development, environment protection, and policy making. And so, as a chemist, we are called over and over not only to produce knowledge, but to guide the use of this research and this knowledge in a way that is very responsible, and always in dialogue with the society. So one can ask why we focus on women in this context. Not because, of course, responsibility, education, interdisciplinarity belong to women alone, but because women professional trajectories often have been connected, involved in connecting discipline. They have a strong engagement in education and mentoring, and contribute to governance and decision-making processes. Of course, these experiences are particularly valuable today when responsible chemistry requires more than any other times collaboration, listening, and a long-time vision. And so we have a panel in which the different voices related to education, how women have played a crucial role in shaping curricula, mentoring, and fostering the next generation of scientists, interdisciplinarity, to explain that women very often act as a bridge with chemistry, physics, and other science, and scientific governance, in which we can realize how women contribute to discussion, ethical framework, and strategy to the decision on the use of chemistry. So these are, how can you say, different voices from different areas, because we believe that the very strength of EuChemS is the diversity of its voices. And so the panel of today reflects this different perspective and bridge together different experience. And now I would like to invite our vice president and next president of EuChemS to introduce the panelists and to moderate the dialogue with them. Thank you. Please.
This was a nice introduction of today's event, which is, as Javier said, a long tradition within IUPAC. As far as I remember, the first Global Women's Breakfast was in the International Year of Chemistry, and is then repeated every 2 years, or every year, I'm sorry, every year. And also it has become a good tradition within EuChemS, as Angela already mentioned. And I'm very happy to being able to moderate today's breakfast. And I look very much forward to the interesting discussion that we certainly will have, in particular because I'm very happy that we also were able to gather an impressive roster of active participants, of speakers, who will, from different dimensions, look at the various questions that we will pose in this discussion. And so the next step is actually that I will invite our speakers to briefly introduce themselves, give a short introduction into their background, where they're coming from, and what their main focus is when it comes to the issues on global or on gender equality, on diversity, inclusion, and all the other things that we are discussing now within the next hour and a few more minutes. So I would suggest that Christina, you make beginning.
Thank you very much, Wolfram. First of all, just for me as an honor to be here, and I would like to thank Angela and Wolfram, EuChemS, and the EuPAC Javier for their invitation, and Ineta for organizing it all. So it's a very, I'm very honored. My name is Cristina Femoni, and I am a professor of inorganic chemistry at the University of Bologna. I have a degree in industrial chemistry and a PhD in chemical science. In my institution, beside the ordinary duties of us professors in both education and research, I also am heavily involved because I am the rector delegate for sustainable teaching within my whole university, but I am also here representing the European Chemistry Thematic Network, the ECTN, of which I am president. And this is an association that has been acting in chemistry education for over 20 years. So I'm very also proud to represent. And the connection, my connection to my specific theme, if I can say, is which is I'll pick collaboration and communication, is probably, but not exclusively, within the role of the president of ECTN that I have, where collaboration among partners of the network are a key element to keep the network alive and propose all the activities that we have and maintain them. And so okay, so this is my role, but also more in general speaking, the fact that I have been asked to sit at many tables and represent my institution at different tables as a woman. I think it also contributes to a responsibility in chemistry, more specifically on the gender balance. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Christina. The next on my list is Sylvia.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for meeting this morning and having a joint breakfast. I really hope that your coffee, matcha, tea, whatever you're having is tasting really good. I'm trying to get rid of coffee and try to switch on matcha. I heard it's a little bit healthier. So as mentioned, my name is Silvia Markic. I'm professor of chemistry education at the Ludwigs-Maximilian University in Munich, Germany. My background is math and chemistry teacher, and for some years I was working also as a chemistry teacher in a grammar school in Bremen. Probably those of you who are from Germany, you know that Bremen is very big on inclusion, started very, very early. And not only from my personal biography and the history, I was very interested into especially how to involve students with not so high German skills into chemistry lessons and make it easier for them. However, within the years, I noticed it's not just that one dimension that is making them chemistry not so attractive or also not attractive for their career. So I'm focusing myself on the inclusion in chemistry education, not only at the primary or secondary level, but also in tertiary, because though our students decide to study chemistry at the university, their backgrounds are different, their motivations are sometimes also different, why they're sitting in inorganic or organic chemistry classes. I want to point out or emphasize that when it comes to inclusion, the dimension of the diversity that we are having, starting from language, culture, knowledge, maybe also attitudes or misconceptions that the students are having, I see it more as enrichment for us and not so much I don't want to really talk about the difficulties that we are having, because it is also then like the attitudes how to go on this is something very different. If you're interested and at some point are in Munich, I would really welcome you to visit our LMU Chem Lab. That is inclusive student laboratory where we try to offer for all of our students a possibility to work alone, like collaboratively, but alone without a teacher, let's say, in our lab and develop their knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I look very much forward to your contributions in our discussion. I think you have a very special background for this. The next person is interesting because she's not a chemist. Probably the only one who is not a chemist. That is Anne, who is the Secretary General of the European Physical Society, and I particularly welcome you in this group of people that you took the time to look at another discipline. But now I may ask you to just introduce yourself briefly.
Hello, thank you. Yes, I'm Anne Posey. I'm the Secretary General of the European Physical Society. We're the we're the physicists equivalent of EuChem, made up of national physical societies across Europe. Myself, my background, so I'm a soft matter physicist by background, which means that my background is inherently interdisciplinary. Soft matter physics is the physics of squishy stuff and squats on the border between physics, chemistry, and biology. So I'm very grateful to my chemistry colleagues for inviting me here today, and particularly to talk around interdisciplinarity. I'm also thinking about my career since being an academic researcher. I've lived both in the UK, in Germany, and in France. And the EPS itself is based in a border region between France, Germany, and Switzerland. So this idea of interdisciplinary and boundaries and working across them is very important to us. And the EPS itself collaborates well with its societies, and we also try and have interdisciplinarity within physics, but also well beyond it.
Yeah, thanks. And changing now from one Secretary General to the next one, Nineta, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. First, let me thank Angela for the invitation to join today's discussion on the strategic role of European women in responsible chemistry at the 2026 EuChemS Global Women's Breakfast. My name is Nineta Hrastel, and my scientific journey is closely intertwined with the broader changes Europe has undergone in recent decades. I was born and completed my master's studies in a country that no longer exists. I then finished my PhD at the very same university, the University of Ljubljana, in the same city, but this time in a newly independent country, Slovenia. I mention this because what happens outside the scientific world, beyond our laboratories, equations, and theories, has a profound impact on our professional paths. Scientifically, my work began in classical analytical chemistry, later expanding into computational chemistry, and was further enriched by metrology, science of measurement. This combination offers a deep and structured understanding of complex systems. Along the way, I have worked as a researcher and in leadership roles in academia, industry, and policy-oriented research institutes at both national and European levels. I have also been involved in accreditation and standardization, again, both nationally and across Europe. Since 2011, I have had the privilege of serving as the Secretary General of the European Chemical Society. So drawing on my experience across disciplines, particularly chemistry and physics, as well as across science, policy, and the public and private sectors, I'm delighted to contribute to today's discussion on the strategic role of women in shaping responsible innovation through convergence across disciplines, a guiding principle of responsible chemistry identified by IUPAC. So I look forward to a rich and inspiring discussion on how women in Europe continue to shape responsible chemistry through science, leadership, and resilience.
Nineta, thanks a lot. And last but certainly not least, I'm very happy to welcome also Andrea, who is or gives us the perspective of early career researchers, which I think is a very important aspect. Also because that we will then continue to discuss later in the discussion, that the younger people have maybe a slightly different attitude towards how they feel in their career and what they do, and how this also the gender thing is developing. But before we start the discussion, Andrea, please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. And of course, thank you so much for inviting me. And after listening to these introductions, I feel like a section lecturer after some plenary lectures. So I'm very humbled to be in such a great group. So briefly, I'm Andrea Usenik. I'm a postdoc / research and teaching assistant at the Division of Physical Chemistry, Department of Chemistry, Faculty of Science, University of Zagreb, so very close to Nineta. And I'm very happy that we're talking about inclusivity and diversity here, and to see several participants from the country that doesn't exist anymore. I'm very happy to see that we are still largely represented. So besides my work, I'm also a national delegate in EuChemS, so the European Young Chemists Network, and I've been chosen as the CAS, so Chemical Abstract Service, Young Scientist back in 2025. So my core expertise scientifically is related to supramolecular physical chemistry and solution, and our work focuses on development of supramolecular sensors for ions in solutions, systems for drug solubilization, their increasing of their bioavailability and formulations, and detailed thermodynamic analysis of the corresponding complexation processes. And why does it matter? Related to the topic of today's webinar. So it's highly related to responsibility in chemistry and problems which include responsible handling of, for example, hazardous metals in water, so like mercury and similar metals. And also one other stream relates to the application of supramolecular host molecules, like molecular barrels and binding hydrophobic compounds, so like drugs, making low drugs of low solubility much more available, and also for extraction of some food products, which is also related to the discussion after. And my connection to the event themes is, of course, related to the view from the young scientist perspective. So also how responsible chemistry starts, because I pretty much love teaching, and this is the part of my work which I'm most happy about coming every day. So I think it always responsibility in chemistry starts with teaching and working with new generations of students, seeing how things change year by year, even month by month in some cases, and implementing new insights into teaching and science, of course. And strategic role of women, I think in my career at least, I've seen some amazing researchers, professors, and women in leadership roles in large companies that have significantly changed how things work in their respective workplaces through a more inclusive work environment and letting everybody have their voice and implementing new strategies and challenging the status quo. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Europe can support early career scientists, especially, of course, women, and lead them and guide them into decision-making and leadership roles. So that's from me.
Thanks. We will now move on, and what I will do first is to ask each of you one or two short questions, sort of to introduce the topic. I also want to invite all our participants to ask questions. As it was explained before, you can do this through the Q&A button. So please ask questions, write them down, and we will, at the end of the meeting, depending a little bit on the time that we still have, try to answer as many of those questions as possible. Before we start, we will also invite you to answer a question that we will ask you, and that now is on the here exactly. The slide is already on the screen. That you go to Slido and share with us your thoughts and what, in your view, are the greatest challenges that responsible chemistry must address in the next 5 years. And then we will see again at the end of the meeting what different kinds of answers we will receive, and if there are clusters of answers, so that we can identify what is, from your point of view, the most important aspect that we should address. So please go to slido.com and write down your thoughts on this question. Now I come back to our speakers, and I will ask again, using the headlines that we have chosen for this meeting. starting with communication and collaboration. And here I would like to ask first, Christina, your work focuses strongly on education, as you have told us. And we would be very interested in your experience of what are the most effective ways to unify the formation of chemists in Europe. And of course, if you could also include maybe the broader ECTN view on this, that would certainly also be helpful. Please.
Thank you very much, Wolfram. Yes, I can actually bring my direct experience in answering these questions, because there are various ways of unified formation of chemistry in Europe. I would say one of them, probably in my experience, one of the most effective ones is the accreditation of degree courses within European education standards. So, for instance, I hope you can see me, because it looks like I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. 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 Of course, the camera has always been working, and now that I'm speaking is apparently not. So I will still keep talking, but I'll try to maybe to join on another device for the next question. Anyway, so the accreditation of degree courses. So within the CTN, for instance, we had in the past, and we're still using, we developed a system of Euro label accreditations, which basically forced institutions to interrogate themselves on how to comply with the standards, European standards, within their degree courses. We're talking about bachelor courses or master courses. And so this could be, in my opinion, a very effective way to unify the formation of chemists. Another element, I'm going to try. Okay. Another element could be, for instance, this may be banal, but to enhance cross-border mobility of educators, to enhance and ease a sort of contamination of education. So that would, in my opinion, ease very much the, let's see if you can see me. Can you see me now? Okay. I don't have the same background because this is my B side, B plan, let's say, plan B device. Anyway, I think that contamination of educators could be really beneficial for unification of chemistry. And also the last element, although there could be many others, is the professional developments of educators. So it's very important for me as a key element to devote attention to how educators teach, and not just what they teach to the younger generation. So this is one of the aspects that for me should be really looked into. Thank you.
Sorry. I hope now you can hear me. So I just said that I wanted to stay a little bit more on the education side, because I really think that this is an extremely important point. And since we have Sylvia with you, a real expert on this here on the table, I would like to ask you the question, since you have been working on chemical education and teacher training in particular, so it's not so much the academic education at the universities, but also the education at schools, where, I mean, a good education has to start. If you don't build the basics in school, then you probably will have severe problems later on. I would like to ask you, what role can collaborative teaching models play in shaping the next generation of responsible chemists?
Thank you so much. So the point is actually that there are some, I know from Germany, but also from other countries, there are some models of that collaborative teaching. However, we have to be aware that it is not that easy. It's not that you just put a chemistry teacher and a special needs teacher in one class and let them teach together collaboratively, because it has to be exactly discussed what is the role. However, it also, the competencies has to be kind of mutual there. So for example, it is not easy as a chemistry teacher just to say to the special needs teacher, okay, please take care of the kids, because those kids, they have to light up the Bunsen burner. But if the special education teacher is not expert in that, it doesn't make sense. So I know some models where the teachers are collaboratively educating themselves after the university in their schools. So they were staying in the afternoon and teaching themselves. So chemistry teacher was teaching special education teacher how to light up the Bunsen burner, or how to do the titration, or how to do just the filtration or similar like that. However, on the other side, the regular teacher or chemistry teacher gets some knowledge about special needs, about how the cultural diversity influence chemistry teaching, or also, for example, linguistic differences that the students are having. So collaboration is a big thing when it comes to the chemistry education, when it comes to teacher collaboration. However, it depends a lot on the system. It depends a lot on the, yeah, well, let's be honest, on the politics and how much the concept of is there. But the examples that I know, they work very, very good. And it's a lot of benefit for the students at the end.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. Sylvia, sorry. I guess we will come back to this a little bit later, but I first wanted to have statements from all of you, and Anne, you're the next one. And it won't surprise you that I ask you, what do you think are the biggest challenges for a physicist in collaboration with scientists from other fields? And I mean, of course, the fields which are closest to physics is probably also biology, materials, also chemistry. But I'm always curious when it comes to this across disciplines collaboration, what the roles of social sciences and humanities could be, in particular also for physics, because I mean, there are many ethical problems. There are many things that are particular also for physicists as they are for chemists. So I'm really very curious on your views on that.
Okay, so as always, I think the challenge is communication. Often physicists have their way of communicating and their way of thinking about things, which is occasionally not seen by other disciplines as helpful. We have a tendency, the joke is to make everything spherical and to really zoom out on the details. And for other fields where specificity is the key aspect, this can often be frustrating and annoying in both directions. So we really need to learn to listen to our collaborative partners in our close disciplines, where to understand where details matter, which they do, and where taking a step backwards and looking a little bit more coarse-grained can be a really useful step. And physicists often try and get very much to the most simple model possible and then add things back, rather than starting from something complex and shifting it downwards. You asked me about ethics and around humanities and social sciences. I think for physicists, that's a really big challenge. We have to think responsibly about our research, which can have profound implications, particularly in current global contexts when we're looking at nuclear weapons, where that may be where nuclear weapons is not something that we want to be researching, but that there are research fields which have dual use, not just weapons, but also around quantum sciences, around the Nobel Prize for Physics coming from AI 2 years ago. These are profound topics with ethical implications. And again, it's about communication. As a field, we need to be aware of what implications our research has, to be able to understand that there are experts in these topics who can help us to think about how we work on these borderlines where there are ethical challenges, and also to think about what we value as a field when you're looking at complicated topics where there's potential for dual use. who's allowed to work on them? What happens to your collaborators? Can they still join you if this is a topic that has been declared as strategic? So we have to think very hard about how we collaborate across disciplines and who can support us. But our main aim is to really think about having that open communication and listening and understanding each other's points of view.
Thank you. I have one more question for you, and that is more directly to the point of diversity, because I've seen that the EPS has publicized a diversity statement only last year. And I just wanted to ask you what was the background of this, what was the motivation of this, and is that something that, does that define a new start or a new aspect of diversity within the EPS, or what is sort of the history of all this?
I wouldn't say it was new. I think we've always been hopeful to have, like, aiming to have a diverse community. The importance for us is to emphasize that diversity is broad. It's not simply around the gender diversity, but it's around geographical diversity, that we need to be an inclusive community in order to have most impact. The statement is also that we feel in some cases that diversity may be under threat in places, and we wanted to underline that a diverse team and a diverse community is essential for science. And for us, this is not new. This is not a new start or a new thing. It was just to emphasize that this is something that we value within our community and that we wanted to publicize and push for, because we really do feel that science is a global endeavor and that all parties should be able to participate equally, and that has benefits for science. We shouldn't do it because it's diverse. We should do this because it's better science.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. Nineta, ethical standards and scientific or ethical guidelines and scientific standards are important, and you have a lot of experience with that. I mean, you just told us that you have interacted with scientists in very many different areas, not only scientifically, but also areas in terms of where they were coming from, industry, government, scientific organizations. What is your opinion about the role that ethical standards in particular will and have to play for responsible science or responsible chemistry in our case?
Yeah, thank you for this question. It's a rather complex topic. And I think that when we discuss ethical frameworks and scientific standards, it's important to acknowledge two fundamental aspects. First, they are grounded in values. And secondly, they are usually formulated as recommendations rather than binding rules. At the same time, what social science experts all often point out is that the values themselves are not negotiable, to which I tend to agree. So basically, this leads to a key question. How do we navigate situations in which we are guided by non-negotiable values, but the ethical frameworks meant to support them are not compulsory in nature? So that's the core question in this respect, in my opinion. Then let's assume that we do have appropriate ethical framework in place. What matters most, of course, is its implementation. And here the governance plays a crucial role. From my experience working in large systems across both public and private sectors at national and at European levels, with different organizational and leadership models, one thing is very clear. Leadership matters enormously. The culture of an entire organization is shaped from the top. If ethical standards and interdisciplinary collaboration are genuinely supported by the leadership, responsible innovation can thrive. If not, then it remains a good intention on paper. So responsible innovation is not just about having the right frameworks, it's about creating the conditions where those frameworks can actually work. Else, of course, I firmly believe that the answers to today's and future challenges lie in a cross-discipline collaboration, not only in STEM ones, but also including social sciences and humanities. There are very many various challenges on the way to make such broad collaboration fertile. One of them is having sufficient knowledge not only in our own scientific discipline, but also in the ones our research curiosity is taking us to. To conclude, I don't think values differ fundamentally across disciplines. What really matters is whether they are implemented in practice, and this is often where things fail.
Yeah, Minetta, thank you. I guess we will all agree with what you said, that it is extremely important that the leadership must be the ones who go first and who set the scene. Again, not last but certainly not least, I'm coming back, Andrea, to you. As a younger person, do you think that interdisciplinarity is something which is or has a stronger weight in your generation than it had for us older people? And if so, well, if so, at first, this would be a very positive answer. But is there something that the institutions can do to improve that situation even further? Because I think we all agree that looking across borders, in particular in our sciences, is extremely helpful and is extremely valuable. And I really would like that you share your views on this with us.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, I think we are trained. Even the younger ones, for example, I see one of our assistants now is born in 2002. So she started working, and our mindsets are completely different in some ways. So I think we are trained, or at least should be trained, to solve and find solutions to some more complex problems. So as Anne said in her introduction with soft matter, the problems we are facing now sit between chemistry, data, biology, materials, engineering, policy, and intellectual property. So we need to know at least a bit of everything, or at least to collaborate with people who know at least a bit of everything. So not the and how we can get supported for such projects. I mean, as far as I know, I haven't written any bigger projects on my own, but I know that now if you want to get some funding for some bigger amounts of money, let's say, it must be a problem-driven project. So find the problem, and then which is very important for ecology or toxicology or I don't know, anything. And most of those problems are somewhere on the verge of chemistry and all these fields I mentioned before. And how can the institutions support? I mean, this is wishful thinking, of course, but through specific funding for younger researchers, because it is much harder for us to compete with somebody who has, I mean, we have to start somewhere, of course. It's much harder for us to get some at least smaller projects, and the competition is very, very fierce in those fields. So maybe through some specific but smaller funding for young researchers and funding problem-driven projects, supporting co-supervision because of the diversity of topics we need to cover. So maybe having somebody to support us or supervise us who is not, for example, I'm a chemist, to not have a supervisor who is solely a chemist, but somebody who is, for example, from biology or materials or engineering background. And also, this is not as related to projects and everything, but for our further development, to reward important skills we have and achievements we have, aside from the basic paper counting criterion, which is very hard to, very much harder for women to let's say, fulfill if, for example, there is maternity leave in question and so on. But I know we'll be touching on that a bit later. So maybe to have a bit more team effort in hiring and promotion of women and minorities, and also teaching us, so having some courses and education on, for example, data literacy, life cycle assessment basics. So basically the things which are very important now for interdisciplinary problems. So also toxicology, safety, and the basics of course, intellectual property.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to all of you for giving your first statements. Now we will move to a more open discussion, so I will not address a particular one out of you for the next question, but just invite everyone to say something. And the first question I want to ask the group is a very practical one. What does responsible chemistry mean in practice, in your field, in your institution, in your career? Who wants to go first? Andrea, why don't you just continue?
Yeah, so for us, as I mentioned, we are working on sensors and extractants for toxic metals. In order to make them, to design them, to synthesize them, to evaluate their properties, we are always trying to make them low in toxicity and safe by design, so that if we try to make a sensor, why would we put something which is carcinogenic just to make it fluorescent, for example? So let's work on simpler materials and make them safer to use, safer to synthesize, also in the end, hopefully cheaper to produce. And there should be, of course, and we are trying to implement those things in our research. There should be realistic plans for their regeneration and waste handling, which is not something that chemists, at least I wasn't taught of how to apply the knowledge related to waste handling and using, for example, benign solvents and materials, and to minimize hazardous reagents we use in the synthesis and testing of their properties. So this is the topic in my field, which is most related to responsibility and which has most impact on further development and mainly having cleaner waters, for example.
Yeah. Other comments, opinions on that particular issue? Yes, please, Sylvia.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, responsible to who? So responsible in which direction? Who is actually my audience when I'm talking about a responsibility? So this is also the question of the communication when it comes to that responsible chemistry. So I was just wondering, who is our audience? So we all, well, I would guess most of all are here because we saw on LinkedIn or some professional social media channels or tools, or however you call it in these days, about this event, and we were here. But however, for example, there's no, let's say, cleaning woman here, or somebody who is working in the bakery, or somebody who is selling in the store. Those people are not here. But the chemistry that we are developing should be responsible also towards those people. So I was just wondering, when it comes to responsible chemistry in practice, the first question that we have to think about is who are we talking about, and how we have to think about to reach those people. One point that I would like to stress on when it comes to this responsible and communication of the chemistry is also building the trust. I'm pretty sure that not only in Germany, but also in other countries, especially during the years of Corona or pandemic, we saw that this trust and transparency is not really completely there. That, you know, the innovations were coming, everything was happening, we understood what is going on, but there's among of population of the people in our countries that didn't trust to the science, that didn't trust to the chemistry, or in this case would be mainly biochemistry and pharmacy. So for me, coming from completely different background, talking about responsible chemistry will be the first step, talking about who responsible to who, thinking about the audience, and then start also to build a transparency and also to build the trust among the people, so that they really believe it's really responsible chemistry at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that is a very important point. Trust in science is one of the basics and comes back to our other issue, namely communication. I mean, it's a question, how do we communicate our science to the public at large? So yes, this is something that also within EuChemS, of course, is a large topic, and we do as much as we can, but still that is not enough to improve the situation of that the population, the general population, gets more and more trust into what scientists do. Maybe I just have another question, which is similar, and Angela, I would like to ask you in your function as president of EuChemS, how can we ensure that women's voices are fully represented in the global conversation on responsible chemistry? So what can we do? What can also EuChemS do to make sure that the voices of women are really being heard?
Okay, thank you for this question. I try to answer starting from different point of view. The first point of view is that when we talk about responsible chemistry, we talk also about the fact that we have to take into account what will happen at the end. Now we do research, we discover new substances, and our intent is often the one related to our career, also our curiosity. But I think that responsible chemistry is strongly linked to the fact that you have to have in mind what's next, what will happen in the long term. Because something that is really shocking now from a good point of view, it can be from the worst point of view later. So to have an idea that we have not to produce science for ourselves, but to produce science for the entire global environment, not only women and men, but also the nature, of course. So what can be done, and what the organization like EuChemS? Of course, we can start also regarding, for instance, the women, that is the topic of this meeting, but it can be also enlarged to all the different categories that can be seen as not equal, not similar, or different, that are not only linked to the sexuality. And I think that beside the rules and the practice, what we can do, for instance, from the organization that we lead somehow, is organize something in which women can have their place. In the sense, don't organize panels without women, or in which women are the same as a number of men. And above all, do not organize panels in which men talk about problem of women without women. No. This is something that as organization we can do. We can organize congresses in which there is equity in the choice of the leader, the lecturer, and so we can have women well represented. But we can do also something more, in the sense that we can organize kindergarten, for instance, connected with the conference for the young researcher, because the young researchers are the ones that most easily give up, because they have children, because they have the charge of the family on their shoulders, like it happened during the pandemic. So if you want them to participate to big conference, to big events, you have to allow them to bring with them their children, for instance, and somebody who takes care of the children, because this is the way to give the same chances to everyone. Because of course the women have less chance because they are less represented at the high level. And of course, if you are less represented, you can decide less than who is mostly represented. So in front also of great problem like how we apply the artificial intelligence, we can say that women are really participating to this discussion, but I don't believe this, but in the main organization, the women that have surely a different point of view, because their life is different, their sensitivity is different, they should be present, I would say. And also the algorithm are man-oriented algorithms, don't take care of the difference with the women. So the organization that organize and do network have a great responsibility in find the condition in which the diverse, let's say, and we talk now for women, can find their way and be recognized together with the other part of the society.
Yeah, thank you, Angela.
Wolfram,
yes.
Can I follow up on what Angela said?
Yes, please, Christina.
I hope you can see me on the...
Yes.
With the perfect background.
Yeah, I wanted to pick on what Angela said, because I would like to as well focus on we are here, women having breakfast. So we all know that scientific and education roles should be completely gender independent, of course, but if we have diverse genders, diverse backgrounds and talents, this is how we can create a really true responsible chemistry community. So in my opinion, women in leading roles should set an example to the younger chemists, to the younger generations, to be upfront, to sit at tables, to take responsibility roles. This would help to change the mindset. And so I think I want to reinforce what Angela said, and I feel very strongly about this. We have to, in my opinion, prove to the other genders that are not the dominating one in our field that it is possible. Although we have different lives, different habits, but we can do, we can be here. So by sitting here, we are, in my opinion, already setting an example, but also we have to be careful and paying attention in passing the baton to other women. I may say now something that maybe I feel it and nobody else does, but in my experience, I have got many years of experience now. Women may be very harsh or severe or strict in judging other women, and they're probably sometimes softer on men. So we should, we should not do that. Okay, we should be completely, let's say, free from this kind of mentality, and this is how we can help the next generations to be where we are now.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. And that brings me to something that both of you mentioned, namely how important it is that there are more women in leading roles. But if we look at the numbers, I mean, you all know that the leaking pipeline phenomenon. I only know the numbers from Germany, but I just looked them up this morning. If we look at chemistry student beginners, we have almost 50% females. If we then go on to the bachelor's degree, there's 41% women. If we then go to the next step, master's, there's 38%. And at least in Germany, almost every master's degree student goes on to a PhD. So it's not a surprise that we also have 38% women as PhDs. But if we look at habilitation, the number goes down to 27%. And if we look at professors at German universities, 15%. So that is a clear indication that something is wrong in this system, because it is of disadvantage, in particular to women. And of course, the question is, what can we do? The keyword maternal leave was already mentioned, and also kindergarten, for example, at conferences. All these are certainly important things, but this is not new. We all know that. But nevertheless, the changes, if you look at the numbers, yes, they do change, but still we are not where we want to be. So what do you think can be done, in particular in our countries, in Europe, to improve that situation, that we really have more women in leading roles? And that not only applies to universities, the same is true for companies, where we also have just a few, for example, women in the leading roles in major chemical companies. So what needs to be changed? What do you think? What can we do? Silvia?
So maybe this is kind of elephant in the room topic now when I start about that. But to be honest, so, okay, for chemistry education, the situation looks a little bit different because we are all coming from teacher background. So usually the teachers are women. So it's kind of different thing. However, all of us are mainly in the faculty of chemistry and pharmacy and so on and so on. So that means we also have a contact to other people. So what I noticed, you know, when you come to the certain level and talk to the women who are chemists, biologists, pharmacists, usually it is also the point of the mental thing, the self. Sometimes it also comes to topic, I don't know if I can do it, because you see the whole line of the problems that could be, like, if I can go to the conferences, if I so and so and so and so. So at some point, I also think that we should also start to building about that community where we can mentally support each other, saying, don't worry, you're gonna fall, but you're gonna stand up and get ready your crown, and then you're gonna march on, and it's going to be okay. So I think this is a lot of times really not the surrounding on itself, but sometimes also the one talking like, I'm not so sure if I can do it, to be honest. And I hope that I'm not completely going into the wrong direction, but I've really never heard a man saying that they cannot do it. But sometimes I really do hear a woman saying, I'm not sure if I can make it. I'm not sure if I can do it. So aside to all the support that is already there, I also think that it is something that we have to work on, that mental part, and supporting and showing, maybe through the role models, but also maybe really to the mentoring programs or to the support between the women at the same university, openly talking about this topic, just as an idea.
Yeah, thank you so much. Angela, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just want to add few words, in the sense that I really believe that when we talk about problem of women, we talk about a system problem. This is not a problem of women. This is a problem of the system, because if there is still this difference between the salary or the participation between women and men, this is something that it's not a problem of women, it's a problem of the entire society. So we have, as a systemic society, start to deal with this problem since the beginning, from the family, to try to do the children, and not in a different way if they are boy or if they are female girl. And in the school, if we avoid to send young girl only to, let's say, lyceum, and the other one on professional and so on, and then going on the stereotype, the information, and then there are to be the rule. Some rule has to be set. The fact that you find such a large difference in some field cannot be changed by the effort of a single woman that strongly wants to defend as priority. But there should be some rules that help people that cannot afford to fight alone to be, let's say, introduced in a network, helped also from the salary point of view, let's say, and also, I would say, with blind competition are also a way in which because sometimes when you go to have an interview and there is a panel of men in front of you, it's not that they ask you strange things, but sometimes it's the way they ask you and the way they react that let you feel that you are not good for that place, the internal bias that always works. So blind interview or something like that can be a good way to make the women above all to be conscious that they can make it, also if difficult.
Yeah, thank you. Before I turn over to Anne, I just want to reiterate that we still have a few minutes probably left for questions from the audience. I have seen that there's up to now we don't have any questions. There are a few questions which have been submitted before the event. But still, please, if you have a question, just type it into the Q&A possibility on the screen. So now, Anne.
Thank you. Actually, I'll keep this very brief because Angela said a lot of what I wanted to, which is just to focus on the idea of belonging. Physics, unlike chemistry, our undergraduate cohort is between 20 and 30% female and has been stuck that way for maybe 2 decades since I was an undergraduate student. But a lot of the research that we see is around the idea of a sense of belonging. But to have people belong, we don't need to fix the women. You can't be told you need to belong. We need to fix the system so that it is welcoming and that people feel they belong in that, rather than fix you. Yeah, you can't train people to belong. You fix the system so that they feel that they belong within it.
Yeah, I think that is really the major thing. And as Angela said, it's not the women who are the problem, the system is the problem. And that brings me also to another key point, and that is unconscious bias. Because in many of the situations you were just describing, that is this unconscious bias, because if you ask the male on a panel, do you judge women and men differently? They would say, no, of course we don't, even though it's not true. But they're not aware of their own way of looking differently at women on the one side and men on the other side. So I think it would also be very important to include that somehow also in the education, that already as a student you become aware that there is this risk of unconscious bias. I know that in many companies there are workshops and there are courses on this, so that they try to, because they are aware of, the companies are aware of this and are trying to fight this. But I don't think that at the universities we still have a similar tradition, which could also be part of the problem that you just mentioned. So we have still 9 minutes to go. I don't see any question from the audience, but I want to ask you one question that that we received beforehand, and I just read it to you. Many teachers in primary education are females, and many students decide their future careers very young. How should these two facts be taken in advantage to empower primary school teachers in chemistry? Sylvia, maybe this is a question for you.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to career, we know that the lessons or the school does have an influence, but not that much. The major influence is really coming from the parents. So the kids I'm not so sure about the primary education. So from German perspectives, it would be grade 1 to 4, so the kids from grade 6 to 10. But I know that in different countries, primary education means from grade 1 to 10 or 1 to 9. So that means also teenager time. So especially that career orientation comes really during the teenager time. So that means when they are 13, 14, 15, and the biggest influence starts from the peer groups and from the parents. And there is also a huge cultural issue there, speaking now from the German point of view, where the parents see you, how you can work, because also, for example, when we talk about the German parents, they usually say, my son, my daughter is a doctor, is a chemist, is so on and so on. In other cultures and countries, like where I'm coming from, also a lot of time for the German diaspora, let's say, they usually say our family has a doctor, our family has a lawyer. So it's more about the status of the family, not so much of the status of the kid or of the student. So this is something that we have to think about when we talk. So it is not enough to work on the school. It is not enough to work on the teachers. It is not enough to give them materials and informations about, where chemistry is everything good of. You have to work with the parents, because the decision is not taking on Monday in the third class, in the third lesson. The decision is made at home, talking with the parents, talking with the brothers and sisters, with the peers, or with the aunt or something like that. So I think it is the focus group is much bigger than just working on the teacher. Yeah.
Thank you. I would like to ask you one last question before we then go to the Slido and see what the audience wrote down there.
Yeah, sure.
And I will come back to the major theme of our breakfast today, that was shaping responsible chemistry, the strategic role of women in Europe. My question is simple. What is the strategic role of women in Europe in this respect? What do you think? In particular, when it comes to the word strategic. Who wants to say something? And of course, you could replace chemistry by physics, Anne.
So I would maybe start, and it matches for me that strategically comes to the idea of coming now from, again, education point of view, is that responsible chemistry. So the strategically, I would go, or I would think about how to reach the people to trust us, how to make the chemistry transparent, how to not just define for us and not to see the other people. So, and also, reaching maybe different goals as a woman, showing the responsible chemistry, but also showing and presenting us women as somebody who can do the chemistry, who can stand from certain point of view or certain topic. So I would go, just to sum up, go from that responsible chemistry and see how I can present that, how I can do that, how I can reach different groups, different audience, be aware of my audience, and maybe through that reach also diverse audience that I would like to have.
Thank you. I still see 2 hands up. Ninetta, you were the first, so please.
Yeah, thank you. Just in short, the way I see it is that women or female colleagues often do have a strategic role in all sorts of things, but in most cases it's kind of invisible, probably because of the way we tend to operate, which is different than the male approach, if I may say so. And we can also call it, let's say, a soft way of doing the things. But I could really see very many examples where female colleagues had or have strategic role on various matters, but it's hardly visible. Let me say it like this.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Angela.
Yes. Well, I think that the strategic role that women can have in shaping the responsible science in Europe, but not only in Europe, is linked to the fact that women are different by men, in the sense that they can be strong, can be really seen as women that are capable, but most of the time, what happens is that women are taken into account as much as they act like men. And this is not the correct way, because we have a different way to approach. We are less warrior, let's say, than men from this point of view. We try to listen to the people. We try to, the comprehension is also something. And so in a world in which everything is against somebody else, the fact that women, educated women above all, know the sense of equilibrium, listening to other people, trying to understand the reason, trying to find an equilibrium, try to see the effect of what you are doing, taking care of your research, in the sense to avoid that your research becomes only something for you, for your career, but try to involve other people and without any discrimination. These peculiarities are linked to the life of the women. So if they are able to stay in strategic position, I think that they can make the difference.
Thank you. So we are almost out of time. I still see two hands up, and so I would like Anne and Christina to be as short as possible so that we won't overdo it too much. Anne, it's your turn.
So my point is that maybe we should look at the role of women within our learned societies. The EPS president is female, the treasurer is female, and the honorary secretary is female, as is the secretary general. And we see lots of women leading networks within the community, which is whether there's formal learned societies or whether as networks to connect people. And I think there's a role there that we see women are taking leadership and strategic positions, but maybe insufficiently rewarded for them. But I think there's something we can look there, looking at community organizing and the role that women seem to be playing within that.
Thank you. Christina.
In a nutshell, competition is healthy, but women should also be playing as a team. Okay, they should be create more of a team among women in leading positions, because when we are in leading positions, maybe we are, I can see it today, I was invited by a woman, Angela, so we are like helping each other and trying to include, okay, each other, but along the way, there is a fierce competition also among women, which is probably, as I said earlier, more like rigorous and fiercer than among men. So we should, as I said, play more as a team and help each other.
Okay, thanks a lot. Just as an addition to what Anne said about the gender distribution in the EPS, in the German Capital Society, we right now have a female president, 2 female vice presidents, and the only non-female is the treasurer. So I think, yes, I say this because this is really a development. We had our first female president back in, I think, in the more than 150 years of history in 2016, something like this. So it took almost 150 years before a female person was elected president. And now it's becoming more normal. So I think, yes, we are on a right track here, but there still is a lot to do. So now I want to thank all of you for this wonderful discussion, for all your contributions. And before I give back the word to our president, Angela, I'm very curious what the audience said on the Slido.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to everyone who participated in this poll. And I think it seems to be clear that environmental questions are among the most prominent ones, but it's not only about environment. There were also other things. Artificial intelligence is one aspect. Education was one, which I think is also reflects very well the discussion that we had. So now that completes my part of this, and I'm happy to give the word back to Angela to say the last words of this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wolfram. And just a few words. First of all, to thank all the panelists who participate to this event. It was really interesting. Your point of view was something that we will keep in mind in the future action of EuChemS. It's really has been really interesting to see the answer from the audience. The fact that when we talk about responsibility, the responsibility is mainly seen as not personal responsibility, not only personal responsibility, the responsibility for yourself, but for the entire world, for the environment, first of all. So from this point of view, science, education, and capability to orient the politician in the right way is really important. This is what happened today. We discussed about this, and I hope, thanking again all the panelists for this nice discussion, that this discussion not only reflects the progress that personally we have done and our organization, but can inspire in the future concrete actions within our institution, not only on that, within the society and the international scientific society. I think that as EuChemS, we can try to do our best, and we will do our best with the collaboration of all of you. And keep always in mind that everything we do is for peace and not for war. Thank you.